have to welcome on another political activist, a guy that is just kicking butt and taking names. And I say a guy because at one point he was a lady, the one, the only Abel Garcia. Abel, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for having me on.
So, Abel, you've become a big political, I can't even speak, but, you know, there's Chloe Cole, who's one of the, I would say, probably the most famous detransitioner, just because her story was picked up about her transitioning at 14. And I would say, Abel, that you've made a lot of headway, especially in Texas, and you've become a very popular person speaking against this gender cult, I like to call it, because it's not based on science. You saw what Dr. Phil recently said?
I have not seen that yet.
Well, Dr. Phil just talked about gender dysphoria and how, you know, it's basically, I don't know what we can say because of terms of service, but it has the least testing when it comes to long-term results. They have no idea, yet they call it the science. You know, they say that, you know, gender reassignment surgery is beneficial, but even when a doctor takes an oath to not hurt or harm, there's a lot of doctors that are coming out and saying, you know what, we are harming a kid by gender mutilating them.
That is true, and unfortunately, they failed me. Well.
Who's they? What happened?
Well, my doctors and my therapists all in California. So, to make my story somewhat short for the viewers who don't know my story, so I started my transition at 19, but at 18 is when I went to see a therapist. Okay. I was confused about myself. I came from a very Mexican masculine culture, and unfortunately I was not the most masculine growing up, so I always questioned myself as a young boy.
Well, when you say that, I want to talk about that. When you say come up, you weren't that masculine. What, you just in like sports or what? I mean, why? What was so feminine? Were you that feminine? Because you kind of, I mean, you don't really look that feminine in that picture right there, but you just felt more feminine.
I wouldn't say feminine. I just guess I wasn't stereotypically masculine.
I see.
And obviously, because with how my culture is, that made me question myself.
Really, because Mexicans are strong. They're all about their culture, family, Catholicism. And so a lot of that stuff, I guess you didn't vibe with?
Yeah, I didn't vibe with any of that.
And then so what happened? So then you started looking in the mirror and did you ever do the tuck thing, you know, where you ever tuck it? I've done that. Everybody's done it where you tuck it and you look in the mirror and you're like, wow.
Well, Alex, I will have to say yes because I did transition for a bit.
Wow, so you were tucking it. Do you have any damage?
Oh, definitely.
No, you have genital damage.
Yeah, I have atrophy of my genitals. And unfortunately, because of that, I don't know if I'm sterilized.
Have you done a test? Have we checked your...
I'm looking at it, but unfortunately my insurance doesn't cover it. I'm trying to see what I can...
You can't make sexual jokes on the show. We have to cool down the sexual jokes.
Yeah.
And so this is not a sexual joke, but Jimmy, would you be willing to drink some of it? Could you tell if you had a sip of it? If it was...
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's part of my contract.
He could tell if it has swimmers in it or not.
We're not kidding.
This is not sexual. This is scientific. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no jokes.
Well, we'll figure that out later.
Well,
that's neither here nor there. We'll do the scientific testing off the show.
I think that's more scientific than what all my doctors did in California.
Yeah, it is. So tell us what happened with the doctors. Like, why did they tell you, oh my gosh, Abel, you are a girl, you are this? Like, you went to a psychiatrist and you basically said, look, I'm depressed, I'm having anxiety, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. Like, what happened? What made you go see the therapist in the first place?
So, again, back to how I was as a young boy, wasn't the most masculine. So I went to a therapist and I told her, I don't know, I don't feel like a man. I don't know if I'm trans. I'd like some help. And as soon as I said those words, the therapist said, yes, you are transgender. She had my letter to transition that same day. And she said she did not want to gatekeep me.
Wait, slow down. So as soon as you just mentioned trans, she said you are transgender because, and this is just me, once again, I'm just speculating this, like a doctor, they like want to talk to a trans person. You know, they want to, you know, they almost like want to, I mean, I feel like a psychiatrist wants a patient that they can see a lot. So all of a sudden, as soon as they label you trans, now you feel like, oh, well, now I need to talk to this person a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, she was, I don't know.
Like my point is you never go to a psychiatrist and they don't diagnose you with something. They've diagnosed me with everything and I got it all. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, you know, a doctor's not going to be like, you're A-okay, you're a boy today. Of course you're going to be like, you know what, you are a lady.
Well, I will say this on her. So she was a lesbian, and she also was in charge of the transgender support group of where I went.
Wow.
So I'm not saying anything.
It was an inside job.
But
she recruited you, and I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding when I say this. I know I joke on the show all the time. But now you have a doctor, quote-unquote doctor, psychologist, or psychiatrist, I don't know which one it was. They, in their personal life, you know, as a lesbian, nice, neither here nor there, work in a support group for trans people. Now they look at you, they're like, oh, come to the group. We need more people. Did it feel like that?
Yeah, that's how it was. Well, and then, so as soon as she told me everything about that, I told her, I'm not too sure. I'd like more time to think about it. which was good on my end. But eventually my father got wind of what I was doing,
And
and
you're 18 at the time.
I think I had barely just turned
So
19.
you just turned 19. The psychiatrist's like, you're trans, and you're not wearing a dress yet, or are you dressed?
No.
So what are you dressing? Kind of non-binary? Like, what are you? Like this.
Just like me, just
Okay.
how I am. I've always dressed, well, minus the cowboy boots.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying you're dressed of masculine.
Yeah.
Say. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they get in your ear. They say, you know what? You are trans. And then when do you finally go to Ross Dress for Less and buy a sundress?
Well, let me give you a bit more information first. So, let me get back to my father. So, he found out about what I was doing. I still don't know how he found out. And because of our culture with how it is, he thought the best answer to help me was to take me to Mexico and have me sleep with a prostitute.
Wow.
Now,
That's sexual abuse, but you are an adult, though. I mean, I'm just saying.
I am
mean,
an adult, yeah.
It is a little. Well, it's really kind of sad. A friend of mine, Clark Gable, his dad did that. As soon as his 18th birthday, took him to a brothel. My very good friend, he ended up dying of a drug overdose. I know he had a lot of mental health issues because of this. I think that's one of the reasons my friend used drugs. But he said that his dad is like, "You're not a man." Took him to a brothel, made him sleep with a prostitute, and he did it. So So your story's similar to that?
yeah, he had me sleep with a prostitute. And
Wait, slow down. Show freaking Abel. You're telling me, Abel, tell that story again, because that's abuse.
yeah, so my father found out that I was in the process of wanting to transition. And his best idea at the time, because of our Mexican culture, thought that I should sleep with a prostitute. Now, I did not know I was going to sleep with a prostitute until it was way too late.
It's okay. I know it's okay to get emotional. I hate this for you, Abel. I know this is really tough, and I know you can only say so much, but so did you do it, and you didn't enjoy it at all?
Well, I didn't really have a choice, Alex. My father was the one who was driving. I didn't know how to get out of Mexico at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
You went to like San Diego, or where? I mean, where did you go? Tijuana?
Mexicali.
Okay, yeah, that's on the border right there.
Yeah, border, yeah.
Yeah.
It was either Mexicali or Calexico, one of those two.
And I don't want to harp on this because I know this is a very dark thing. But so you go there, and your dad's like, "Be a man and go bang this girl," for lack of a better word.
So what he said, and I'll have to translate. I'll just translate it to the audience. He said to the prostitute, "Take good care of him. It's his first time." Now,
And she probably actually liked that. She probably never deals with virgins, right? She probably thought that was like a notch on her belt.
I guess so. I honestly don't recall much after that.
Were you drinking?
No, I've just blocked that part of my memory out.
Wow, Abel. And so I'm sure this just made you more mad.
Yes, I was upset with my father, and I didn't realize it then. It wasn't until a few years later, but I realized that was the catalyst that wanted me to transition.
Yeah, because your dad's saying, don't do it, be a man. And there's this weird thing, like if your dad is a Dallas Cowboys fan, now your son might be the New York Giants. They might actually like the opposite of what their parents like. For some reason, like you love your dad, but you just want to do the opposite of him. So once he threw you in that situation, you think that's what radicalized you into thinking, now I'm a different person, I'm in the wrong body?
It was more of, I've now been traumatized, and I don't want to be in my body anymore, because since I'm not too masculine, and my culture is very masculine, that somewhat made sense at my mind after being traumatized. And I said, you know what, I'm going to transition. I don't want to be in my body.
Because you're mad at your dad too, because that would make a parent mad, right? So in a way, are you getting back at your dad when you did that?
No.
You don't think? Okay.
None of this was against my father.
None of it was against your dad. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Wow. And so do you talk with your dad? Have you rectified that situation? How is your relationship now?
We talk, but I've been trying to have that conversation with him many times. But because he doesn't want to talk about that subject, he gets mad at me and hangs up the phone every time I try to talk to him about that. And I've just told him I just want to get closure on that.
Well, I'm not a psychologist. I can't tell you, what to do or what the best route is. But you're a young man, and what you did, would be traumatic to your dad. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be on your dad's side. But I do think the best bet is, and I mean this, you have to be the bigger man and forgive him.
I forgive him.
I hate that. I mean, I'm saying, even though that's bad, it's like I'm not even trying to white knight for him because, him making you do that in Mexico, that's terrible. He probably thought what he was doing was the right thing.
No, and I agree. Like, I understand where you're coming from, and I get where he came from. And I'm not justifying his actions, but I have to forgive him for what he did because it wasn't the best idea But
Even if he doesn't forgive you, you have to forgive him, because holding hate in is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So there's no point. It's only going to make you sick. And I know it's easier said than done because parents' relationships are crazy. But so I'll let you work on that. I'm not going to be Dr. Phil. I'm not Dr. Phil, even though I am basically Dr. Stein 99. I am basically a medical professional. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm here to talk with you about is that you went through this trauma. You made a huge life-changing decision because you were given bad information from not only psychiatrists but actual doctors. And so tell us, how far did it get where all of a sudden you're going to wear the dress? And then when did you finally say, look, I'm a girl?
So after that incident, I went back to the therapist and I told her I want to transition. And she was obviously on board with that. And not long after that, I went to see a doctor. They got me the medication that I needed. And here's the weird part. And I didn't think about it until recently, but there was another transgender there, a man trying to be a woman, and he was an activist and he was working with the clinic. Mm-hmm. The doctor said, hey, I have a transgender woman. She has a lot of experience. She can answer any of your questions, and I'm using I don't like using the wrong pronouns, but I'm just using
transgender woman to understand the story. Yeah. So born a guy, biological male, transgender woman. Yeah.
So this guy comes in. The doctor leaves, and this guy, I didn't think about it then, but he told me to stand up and do a little twirl for him, and he looked. And
wait, like Fox News or something? Like, wait, that's what they. Who did that? Richard Ailes? Who did that? Jimmy?
I'm not sure.
One of the documentaries about it.
Richard Ailes. It was.
It was Richard Ailes. He would make him stand up and twirl. So they made you do this in a group counseling session?
No, this was in a private. After my doctor had left the clinic, and brought in this transgender, and the transgender looked at me, and after I did the twirl, he said, "Yeah." Were
you wearing a dress?
No. No, I was just wearing like something like this.
Okay.
It was right before I did everything, and he said, yeah, he can tell I was supposed to be born a woman.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's interesting for the lack of words.
And you're struggling, you have anxiety, depression, who knows what you're going through mentally, and now you have somebody that's kind of supporting this. And now you look back and laugh, but at the time, I bet it wasn't funny.
Oh, definitely not funny. I was brainwashed into this cult. So, and I didn't really know anything, so I took their words for it. And, well, now I'm laughing because it's insane. Your dad, you have this traumatic thing. It kind of pushes you into this confused state. Then you're talking to these doctors. You wear the dress. You start doing it. So how long were you, quote unquote, a woman? So I started the process in November of 2016. And that's both socially and medically. Now, medically, I ended in April of 2019. So 2016 to 2019, roughly 3 years. 2.5 years, yes. 2.5 years. That's just medically. So that's how long I took estrogen and testosterone blockers. And your penis immediately changed as soon as you started taking the estrogen? It took a time, yes. But I'm saying, like, after a couple months, it got smaller, actually? Yeah, it's much smaller. Did you have kind of a bigger wiener? I'm not trying to be crude. If mine got smaller, it'd be invisible. I don't have much. I'm just saying. Sorry. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know what my penis looks like anymore. Before I did any of it. You saw what Dr. Phil said. Yeah. I agree. None of this is not a real science. It's not a real science. These people, and it's so crazy, though, the people that will say, oh, it's not a real science, but if you say, hey, the difference between a guy and a woman is one has an XX chromosome and one has an XY chromosome, they'll say, oh, that's science. That doesn't matter that, you can choose your gender. Gender is a social construct. So it's weird how they can use science and manipulate it, but I guess they did that during COVID. They've done that, throughout history. I just think it's absolutely insane, though, that you're having people like Dr. Phil that are talking about this. And Dr. Phil is a mainstream guy, right? So he's coming around to this. I don't know why he wasn't talking about this earlier. Do we have any hope for this kind of gender reassignment cult? Yeah, luckily, because a lot of people like myself, Chloe Cole, and a lot of other public detransitioners are now speaking out against it. And a lot of people are coming out. The tide is turning, so that's good on our end. And now that we have people like Dr. Phil and a lot of other reputable individuals are saying, no, we need to stop sterilizing children. This ain't what we were told. Well, a lot of people are now starting to come out, and especially now that states like the state of Texas has banned gender-affirming care. for minors, so that's good.
Is Texas one of the few states? What other states have banned? I think Idaho might have.
Florida,
Arkansas. And didn't you do some legislation? Didn't you get some?
Yes.
Tell us what political activism you did that helped actually make some good change.
So I actually helped here in the state of Texas. I helped pass Senate Bill 14. I worked with Senator Donna Campbell and House Representative Tom Oliverson to help pass Senate Bill 14, which bans gender-affirming care for minors. Anyone under 18. That was last year's legislative hearing here in Texas, and now children are protected.
I'm so fly, I'm aligned with the planes. My grind so refined, I got no time for no games. Ask yourself